Self-Destruction and Moral Decay. No, that's not the subtitle of my memoir. That's what we have in The Second Coming by W.B. Yeats. Questions that are raised, issues that are mentioned that may or may not be inevitable. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we're here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, the poetry discussion playlist, cruising towards 600 videos strong, and number two, the Horror Fest 2024. 31 horror-related videos in 31 days to celebrate October 2024. And the poem itself reads as such. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed and everywhere. The ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming? Hardly are those words out when a vast image of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight somewhere in the sands of the desert, a shape with a lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun is moving its slow thighs, while all about it reels shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. So, does society always feel this way? I think that there is a rising tide today of people who are proclaiming that the end of society is near, that the end of the world is near, that the second coming is at hand. But really, as long as there has been media, there have been media depictions of people holding signs that say the end is near, the end is nigh, things like this. But one thing that I think this poem does do, and it starts immediately, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. What a wonderful sort of visual to convey confusion, to convey the idea of being lost. But this poem goes further than the lost. This poem goes all the way through being lost, being confused, to solution. This poem goes all the way through to the second coming. The second coming bringing the end, by the way, bringing the apocalypse, by the way. The question I want to ask is, are there seeds which cannot be unplanted? Are there certain things for which there is no reversal? Are there certain things you cannot just quit? You cannot wake up and decide this is no longer a part of your personality. This is no longer a part of what it is that you do. This is no longer a part of who you are and your world. Are there ideas which act in that same inevitable fashion? I think perhaps so. For me, the idea of self-destruction has always seemed that way. Otherwise, no one would ever go through with it. But is societal destruction the same? Are we doomed to recycle civilizations epoch after epoch? I think that this idea of the fall of civilization is interesting from a historical context, because would you recognize it while it was happening? You always think the fall of Rome, right? That's one of the big ones. That's one of the famous ones. The fall of Rome, the decadence that was happening, the absurdity of the times. Would you have recognized it as the fall? Certainly, someone did. These ideas have been passed down to us, these ideas of the fall of civilization. As long as we've had civilization, we've been able to find dead civilizations. There have always been ruins. Not always, but you know what I'm saying. As long as we've had written word, there have been ruins to find. The Babylonians, the Egyptians, all had ruined civilizations before them. The prevalence of falling civilizations through time is something that I think might be one of these ideas that once we can see it, we can't unsee it. So the compulsion automatically is to diagnose, right? Egypt fell. Why? Rome fell. Why? The Greeks gone. Why? These things, I think, set up in us an idea before. So America, 1776, right? Not that old. America would have been founded by people who knew that civilizations fall. Therefore, perhaps woven into the very fabric of the society is the idea that it too will fall. You look at places today, Europe, for example, once dominant civilizations. Europe hasn't fallen. I'm not going to make that claim. I'm not going to say that Europe is dead. On many fronts, Europe is certainly asleep. I think that the culture in Europe is vastly different than large swaths of the world where work ethic is praised. In Europe today, it's not. And maybe this is just as an outsider, right? All the stories I hear from the business world about Europe is that it's a nightmare to do business in because no one works and no one has to work more than 24 hours or 32 hours or whatever. And the work week is whittled away and whittled down. And I think that maybe part of the actual societal decay that leads to the fall of civilizations is the unacceptance of work ethic, is saying that, hey, life's not about work, when I think life is about work. How useful can you be during your time? I think that usefulness is something that is underrated in society. And maybe life is about fun, maybe. But if life is about fun, if life's about having fun all the time, there's only so many people that can have a good life. Whereas if work is the measuring stick, worth is the measuring stick, usefulness is the measuring stick of life, then everyone can have a good life and everyone's lives keep getting better. How much work are you doing today that will be enjoyed a generation from now, 2 generations from now? And the answer, if you believe life is about fun and you are pursuing that, then certainly the answer is 0. This is a conundrum that I got into in my early 20s when I was very dedicated to the gym. And then I realized that's just self-infatuation. It keeps you healthy, for sure. I mean, I never got sick. I was strong as an ox. But it didn't translate to very much usefulness for other people. You know, And hey, I don't think that everyone has to be trying to dedicate themselves to usefulness for other people, but I think that there is a tipping point when I don't know where it would be. Say 25% of society is worried about having fun, and the rest are, I think it could be that small, 25%, because the devastating impact of 25% of your society basically freeloading to have fun would be monstrous. And so many other people would have to pick up so much other slack. So I think that maybe I went too far with this poem. Maybe I got too far off path. But this is a poetry discussion. That's all I have for this poetry discussion, and I hope to have you back for the next one.